Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode. Today, I will be getting into a slightly personal topic, but one nonetheless featuring a decision that has effectively changed my life forever. Hey everyone. So today I will be talking about my experience and my decisions leading up to the decision to renounce my U.S. citizenship. So before I get into the how, I think it's really important to go over why I made this decision. So after spending years traveling internationally and really getting to see just a taste of how big and diverse this whole world really is and all these different countries and what they have to offer, I really couldn't ever see myself settling down in the U.S. Furthermore, I've been to places where I felt more at home than I ever have been in the US. And as silly as it may seem, there's a quote saying, "Your soul is pulled to the place where it belongs." And I've certainly experienced just that. Additionally, I am very thankful to have a spouse who shares those same ideals and principles. And after a few years, it really became quite clear that the path that we were on would lead us to places and to make decisions that otherwise would never have happened had we never ventured outside of the borders of the US. Now, just the logistics of being a U.S. citizen living abroad permanently, it comes with a lot of added stresses and red tape, especially when you're considering establishing yourself in a much more permanent scenario in a country outside of the U.S. And all of that stress and red tape still exists even if you aren't participating in the cryptocurrency space. But with things like FATCA and having to report taxes on a global income, in addition to never really being interested in establishing any kind of roots in the US, it just really didn't make sense to hang on to that kind of an anchor or to go through all of those processes, especially, again, if we weren't even planning on returning to that country in the first place. Not to mention the fact that I 100% have an underlying issue with the way that tax dollars are spent, especially considering the U.S. military complex and the utter destruction that they impose on foreign countries and innocent civilians, all just to better capitalize on the oil supply that those countries have and to further solidify the power of the U.S. dollar. So really, what benefits do I have from being a U.S. citizen living abroad? I have to file a bunch more paperwork. I have banks really disinterested in opening accounts for me because, again, of FATCA. They have to file very particular paperwork in a timely manner. And if that's not done correctly, oftentimes the fines involved far outweigh the amount of money that would even be held in my bank account in the first place. So for them, the risk-reward ratio is pretty poor. So now let's address this in regards to the cryptocurrency space, because there are plenty of layers here to take into consideration if you are in possession of a tool that was pretty much designed to usurp the power and control of the most powerful governments in the world. It's a pretty radical position to be in. But what is much more a smack in the face of reality for U.S. citizens who want to participate in the cryptocurrency space is the fact that these guys are, without a doubt, the most abused when it comes to the requirements of KYC information. If you fall into this category of a U.S. citizen wanting to participate in the cryptocurrency space, and let's say you have to use a centralized exchange for a fiat on-ramp, just don't expect to be able to maintain a level of privacy that you might want for yourself. Because the fact remains, if you are participating on a centralized exchange that is operating under the regulations of the U.S. government, especially if you're using an exchange like Coinbase, just know that they want to know why you're investing and what you're doing with those cryptocurrencies. And everything that you do with those cryptocurrencies will be tracked and it will be traced. Now, if you're okay with that sort of distrust and utter breach of privacy, then by all means, continue on. But for me, and the way that I see the US going, and the fact that my life has heavily been influenced by the ideals of people like the cypherpunks, let's just say the stars were aligning for me to make that decision and to ultimately cut ties with an entity that I fundamentally do not agree with. Now, I decided to take my future very seriously and to pursue the life that would serve me best. Now, I spent, after spending several years trying to build this YouTube channel to educate others on how to participate and how to pursue a borderless and permissionless system, it really doesn't take much to extend that philosophy, if you can, onto other aspects of your life as well. So I made a video going over my experience of obtaining a second citizenship to St. Kitts and Nevis. I made that video last year, and really the reason why I obtained that second citizenship was purely so I would be able to renounce my U.S. citizenship without therefore becoming stateless. I had a second citizenship to back me up. I chose St. Kitts and Nevis for the accessibility of obtaining it through an investment program, in addition to the fact that it still allows me to travel to hundreds of different countries visa-free. But really, it was the first step in freeing myself and to allow myself to best pursue what I want out of life. Ultimately, this decision was made after years of deliberation, and it certainly wasn't a decision that I made lightly. And I chose this path instead of trying to fly under the radar, because I don't want to have to live in the shadows. I want to live free. So now you kind of know why I made the decision to renounce my U.S. citizenship. Let me give you let's go into story time of the actual process of renouncing my citizenship. So this lovely event happened in my life in February of 2019 in the Bahamas. So I flew into the Bahamas using my U.S. passport, and I left the Bahamas using my St. Kitts and Nevis passport. Kind of an interesting situation there. One question asked by the Border Patrol, it really wasn't much of a hiccup whatsoever. But I chose to renounce in the Bahamas for a couple different reasons. One being the convenience of its location compared to where I was flying from. And also they made it really easy actually with the entire process. Some US embassies require, there's a cooling off period. You're supposed to have 2 appointments. One is an initial appointment where you go over all of the paperwork you will be signing, everything pretty much you're getting rid of that you're not going to be able to have access to anymore. And then you're supposed to have a certain amount of time for a cooling off period. Most US embassies have this set at 2 weeks or longer, but with the Bahamas, it was about 6 hours. So I had a morning appointment where I went there under the review session. I went and had lunch and got some sunshine, and then I came back in the afternoon where I had my last and final appointment. I think they have this cooling off period so then you can kind of come to a full realization of the weight of this decision. And fair enough, it is a decision that will affect what you can and can't do in your life in regards to the U.S. In having a U.S. citizenship. So fair enough. But for me, like I said before, I had plenty of time to deliberate and to understand. I read the paperwork so many times before I actually went to the appointment. I knew what I was in for. I knew what I was signing. So for me, having that cool off period of 6 hours was just fine for me. So when I showed up to my first appointment, you go through these this kind of crazy security screening. You really can't bring anything with you other than paper and your passport. You can't even bring your keys in. So maybe if you have a friend or someone that you trust that can hold your purse and your keys if you're a woman, you want to just know that they're not going to let you in with that. And as I was sitting for my appointment, and I was kind of sitting in this one row of chairs that they pointed for me to sit in, and everyone else was there, of course, to apply for a visa for entering the U.S., either for traveling or for working. And just a complete juxtaposition between what I was there for and what they were there for. It was really interesting for me to see, especially because how it was set up was that these U.S. officials were, behind this huge plated glass desks, and the people who were applying for visas, it was like a small DMV, very public and open, not a lot of privacy whatsoever. And these officers are asking very private questions for these people, where they're going, what their job is like, if they've ever applied for a visa before, if they were denied, why didn't they say they were denied? And these people have to answer these questions, again, in a very public way. There's no privacy whatsoever. So the whole room knows exactly what everyone's situation is. And that for me was just one more indication of why I just wasn't interested in being attached to a country that treated outsiders with such disrespect. So for me, that really even helped solidify even further my decision to renounce. So after that first appointment, I went ahead, again, had lunch, got some sunshine. I came back. I paid that $2,350 fee that they charge you to renounce your U.S. citizenship, paid it in cash, happily got that receipt, probably the most useful investment or payment I've ever made in my life. Very happy to pay that to be able to get rid of my U.S. citizenship. From there, they pull you into like a private room. And what's kind of funny here is that the officer who was working with me for this process was pretty much my age, same age as me. He was I think he was having a hard time understanding why someone of my age would be willing and able to do something like this. But so he was pretty much really trying to make sure no one was putting me up to this. I was there on my own volition, and, I knew what I was getting rid of. And so that was it. I agreed. I told him, the truth, why I was renouncing, why it wasn't working for me, and the fact that, I'm able to live abroad and whatever. So signed all the papers, gave up my U.S. passport, handed it right over happily to just have my St. Kitts and Nevis passport. And as I was leaving the embassy, the U.S. embassies always have all these like really heavily armed guards everywhere. So I was leaving and I felt such a sense of relief that I left that embassy with my hands over my head and I shouted or something. I said, yoo-hoo, or whatever. And the armed guard obviously didn't know what I was celebrating. And he went ahead and gave me a round of applause. So that was pretty nice. Nice little cherry on top for that day. Now, since then, I have traveled to several different countries using my St. Kitts and Nevis passport. For example, I've been to the UK, I've been to Indonesia, I've been to Singapore, to Germany, Malta, and of course to Portugal, never having any issue. If anything, it's kind of funny because they have a hard time understanding that this is actually a real country, again, St. Kitts and Nevis, but there's no issues. There's no preconceived notions. There's no judgments of me using this passport. So that's been really great. Now, I did do an interview with Andrew Henderson of Nomad Capitalist, where he talked to me about, the trade-offs of giving up a U.S. citizenship, of holding a St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship, of the decision of obtaining that second citizenship of St. Kitts through their investment program. Also talking about what it's like to live abroad here in Portugal. So if you're interested in that, I invite you to check that out on his channel. Additionally, if you want to know about my experience of learning how to get that second citizenship for St. Kitts, I will be linking that for you up here in the video description, or up here and down below in the video description. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope that you found this one informative and give you a little bit of a more heads up into my life and the decisions I've made that set me on the path that I am right now. In the meantime, Toby and I will be going live again on Monday. We'll be happy to talk about this topic if you like, so go ahead and bring your questions to that live stream every Monday, noon Eastern time. You can catch us live, so we'll see you then. But in the meantime, I hope you're staying happy and healthy.